Black Eagle Cave Incident. 3 experienced cavers, John Parker, Leo Sanchez, and Mike Barnes, set out to explore Black Eagle Cave. They wanted to map its depths because it was rumored to have unexplored sections. They were prepared with ropes, helmets, harnesses, and extra supplies. Upon reaching the cave, the men entered and navigated its narrow passages. Their headlamps lit up the winding tunnels as they went deeper into the earth. The cave was challenging with tight squeezes, jagged rocks, and slippery walls. As they went into a deeper section of the cave, something unexpected happened. Mike was moving down a steep, narrow drop. He placed his left foot on what appeared to be a sturdy rock. But as soon as he put pressure on it, the rock crumbled beneath him. His leg jammed awkwardly between 2 sharp edges. The fragile rock broke under his weight and wedged his left leg in place. The walls of the cave were slick with moisture. Before he could regain his footing, his other leg slipped down. His body lurched forward. The pain hit immediately. His left leg was twisted unnaturally. As he tried to stabilize himself, the weight of his body pulled on the trapped leg. This stretched the muscles and tendons beyond their limit. He felt a sharp, searing pain in his ankle or knee. He knew something was broken. The pain was excruciating. Leo and John rushed to his side, but the narrow passage made it difficult for them to reach him directly. The confined space and the unstable rock made every movement dangerous. John could see the strain on Mike's face and the agony in every grimace. Mike's leg was wedged tightly with the rock around it crumbling. His lower body hung at an unnatural angle. They quickly looked at the situation. The fragile rock was too unstable to pull him free without making things worse. Leo tied a rope around Mike's upper body to prevent any further slips. They knew they couldn't just pull him out. The break in his leg and the awkward angle would only make the injury worse. Instead, they made a plan to relieve the pressure. John crawled into the narrow gap beside Mike, wedging himself into the small space to stabilize him. Leo found a sturdy anchor point and looped a second rope through it. The plan was to use the rope to carefully pull Mike upward while John helped move his trapped leg free. Every second counted, as Mike's breathing was growing more difficult. The pain was wearing him down. They began the slow, painful process of freeing Mike. Leo applied gentle tension to the rope, lifting Mike's upper body slightly. John worked to loosen the rocks around his trapped leg. Mike winced with every movement, trying not to scream as pain shot through his leg. The rock shifted slowly, piece by piece, as John carefully cleared the debris. Finally, the last chunk of rock gave way. Mike's leg was free. His left ankle was visibly swollen and twisted. He could barely move it without sharp pain shooting up his leg. They carefully moved him out of the narrow passage and into a larger space. It took hours, with John and Leo taking turns supporting Mike and guiding him through the tight passages. But they finally emerged from Black Eagle Cave, exhausted but relieved. Mike's leg was broken, but thanks to their quick thinking and careful efforts, he was safe and alive. Rat Cave Incident. On July 16, 2014, Delbert Hawkins and his dog named Rat went to explore an unnamed cave in Kentucky. As they went deeper into the cave, Rat was very excited. Suddenly, a pair of glowing eyes flashed in the darkness ahead. A raccoon. In an instant, Rat took off like a rocket, barking and howling as he chased the raccoon. He ran into the maze-like tunnels of the cave. Delbert called out to his dog to come back, but it was no use. The echoes of Rat's frantic barks bounced off the cave walls. The barks grew fainter by the second, and then there was silence. Rat was gone. For hours, Delbert searched every crevice, shouting his dog's name until his voice cracked. But the cave seemed endless, an underground maze that swallowed sound and light. Delbert had no choice but to return to the surface. Volunteers from Kentucky showed up, bringing flashlights, ropes, and determination. They searched the cave from top to bottom, but there was no sign of Rat. Delbert feared the worst. His best friend might be trapped, or worse, lost forever in the cave. Then on the third day, something miraculous happened. The faint, distant sound of barking echoed through the cave. Rat was alive, but he was stuck in a narrow tunnel. He was wedged tightly and no one could reach him. The passage was too small for any of the rescuers to squeeze through. The poor dog had been inside like this for 3 straight days without food or water. His eyes filled with desperation as he cried out louder. His paws scraped at the tight walls around him. His owner called out softly, trying to calm him down, but Rat only wiggled harder, as if he believed he could break free just by hearing that familiar voice. It was heartbreaking for everyone watching him struggle. Delbert was not about to give up on his dog. They figured out that to get to him, they needed to make another plan. They brought in a backhoe to dig into the cave from the surface. They hoped to reach the tunnel where Rat was trapped. Meanwhile, the rescue team got help from a local cave crawling expert. Armed with drills and scraps of bologna, they went in with determination. The man wiggled his way into the tight passage, scraping away the rock. He made a wider opening to reach the dog. Rat was stuck tight and trapped. Each little breath came with a soft cry of pain, like he was begging for help. They knew they had to get him out quickly before he got too weak. They made the tunnel wider and called him out. And then, out of the darkness, Rat's nose appeared. Rat was saved, and Delbert couldn't hold back the tears as he hugged his dog tightly. He promised never to take him into another cave again. Stay High Cave Incident. On the afternoon of February 11th, 2011, 26-year-old David Rosler set out with a friend to explore the Stay High Cave in Virginia. David had no prior caving experience. The cave was notorious among local cavers for its dangerous entrance. The cave requires people to stay high or position themselves on the upper part of a narrow V-shaped passage. By keeping their bodies elevated and carefully moving along the wider parts, cavers avoid getting stuck in the narrow crevices below. But David had no training or background in cave exploration. As he inched his way deeper into the cave, he gradually slipped toward the narrowest part of the V-shaped passage. The slick walls offered no grip. Before he could react, he was sliding uncontrollably downward. His body shot into the tightest part of the cave. The rock walls closed in on him, compressing him into a space so tight that every breath became a struggle. As soon as he came to a stop, wedged painfully in the rock, panic set in. His arms were pinned against his sides. Every attempt to free himself made his situation worse. The jagged rocks dug into his skin. The pressure on his chest made it hard to breathe. His leg was twisted at an awkward angle, adding searing pain to his desperate state. Hours began to pass, and as his body remained locked in place, the pain got worse. Every slight movement sent shocks of pain shooting up his leg and into his lower back. The rock dug deeper into his body. His muscles ached from the tension. The cold seeping through the walls of the cave began to turn his pain into a deep, bone-chilling ache. At first, David's frustration kept him trying. He believed he could somehow break free, but soon his initial anger turned into helplessness as his strength faded. His friend, hearing his distant cries for help from outside the cave, ran for assistance. By the time rescuers arrived, David had already been trapped for what felt like forever. Despite their best efforts to pull him out, the rescuers found that each attempt only made his condition worse. By now, David's body was failing him. His leg, twisted and crushed under his own weight, began to go numb. His circulation was cut off, and the lack of blood flow meant that hypothermia was becoming a real threat. Rescue teams worked tirelessly, chipping away at the rock to widen the passage around him. They brought in specialized tools. They even thought about breaking David's hips just to move him out of the crushing gap. But each inch of progress was painfully slow. Every time they tried to lift him, the pain surged through his body like fire. Inside the cave, temperatures had dropped to dangerous levels. The rescuers worked to keep him warm. They stuffed heat packs into his clothing and even used a hairdryer to blow warm air onto his body. But despite their best efforts, the cold air attacked his limbs. David's strength was fading fast. Every breath was a battle against the crushing pressure on his chest. They chipped away at the bedrock around him. They lifted his broken body upward, little by little. Finally, after nearly 12 hours of grueling effort, David was freed. His body was limp as they pulled him from the cave. His skin was pale from the cold, and his leg was badly injured from the crushing. He was immediately flown to Montgomery Regional Hospital. Doctors worked to treat his hypothermia and the severe crush injury that had nearly claimed his leg. David's survival was a miracle. Szczelina, Mietusia cave incident. On April 7th, 2008, Michael decided to explore a cave by himself. Michael was 30 years old. He was not an experienced caver. Michael wanted to explore a cave in Ojków National Park in Poland. Michael had studied everything he could about caving. Michael learned that caving was not allowed in the park. The park had put metal bars over cave entrances to keep people out. But Michael decided to explore the caves anyway. This was a big mistake. Michael told his mother about his plans before he left. His mother was excited to hear about his adventure. After Michael said goodbye, his mother heard nothing from him. April 7th became April 8th with no word from Michael. At first, his mother thought he was just tired and forgot to call, but she started to feel worried. His mother could not stop worrying. Michael's mother drove to Ojków to look for him. She quickly found his car in the parking area, but there was no sign of where Michael had gone. Michael's mother called the police. The police came quickly and made a report about Michael's disappearance. The police thought Michael might be stuck or lost in a cave. They contacted the cave rescues. The cave entrance was only 8 feet wide. They found a chamber that sloped downward. The rescuers found signs that Michael had been there. They saw a backpack. As the rescuers went deeper, the cave walls got closer together. They had to squeeze through very narrow passages. This cave was like a death trap for someone with no experience. The rescuers faced many challenges trying to get through. They realized they needed special tools to make the passages wider. When the special tools arrived, the rescuers carefully widened the opening. About 46 feet from the cave entrance, they found Michael's belongings. They found his phone, watch, helmet, headlamp, and gloves. Next to these items, they saw Michael's feet, but his feet were not moving. Michael was stuck upside down in a tight spot called the clamp. The rescuers called out to Michael, but he did not answer. Michael's skin was cold and his legs were stiff. Michael had been dead for a long time. Rescuers worked carefully to free Michael's body. They used chisels to extract him from the tight space. Once they freed him, they had to move his body through the narrow tunnel. Finally, they removed the body from the cave. Michael had been stuck upside down for many hours. This made his heart work harder and his lungs struggle. Doctors think Michael died from hypothermia or from being upside down too long. Sand Cave Incident. Floyd Collins was an experienced caver from Kentucky. He was famous for exploring Mammoth Cave. People knew Floyd as a fearless cave explorer. In January 1925, Floyd decided to explore Sand Cave alone. It was a cold winter day. Floyd brought only a lantern with him. Sand Cave was a maze of tunnels and hidden rooms deep underground. The air inside was cool and damp. As Floyd went deeper, he found a narrow crawlway. He had never seen this passage before. He decided to squeeze through the tight passage. Suddenly, something terrible happened. A huge rock fell from the ceiling. The rock crashed down and trapped Floyd's leg. The rock was too heavy for Floyd to move. Floyd called for help, but his voice echoed in the empty cave. Floyd realized he was in serious trouble. He was alone and pinned under the boulder. Hours felt like days as Floyd tried to free himself. The air became harder to breathe. Above ground, Floyd's family started to worry. On February 2nd, Floyd's brother Homer went to search for him. Homer finally found Floyd deep inside Sand Cave. Homer tried to free his brother but could not move the rock. Homer raced back to the surface to get help. He gathered a team of rescue workers. The rescue team knew this would be very difficult. Some tunnels were collapsing. Rocks fell and blocked the way to Floyd. When the rescuers finally reached Floyd, they tried to move the rock, but the boulder would not move. Floyd had made a big mistake. He had gone too deep without proper equipment or support. The rescuers did not give up. They dug a shaft, trying to get closer to Floyd. Floyd's situation was getting worse. Floyd fought against pain and fear. He held on to hope that rescuers would save him. But deep down, Floyd knew his time was running out. Hope began to fade as his body got weaker. Floyd was suffering from not having water and being too cold. Finally, on February 16th, the rescuers reached Floyd for the second time. By then, it was too late. Floyd Collins had died in the cave. Arctomys Cave Incident. Arctomys Cave is located in the Canadian wilderness. It is the second deepest cave in Canada. The cave goes down 1,640 feet into the earth. The cave is very challenging to explore, and the first part is called the Endless Climb. Explorers must go down steep and vertical shafts. Many passages are flooded with icy water from glaciers. On October 17, 1991, 4 experienced cavers went to explore the cave. Rick Black, Chris Zimmerman, Hugo Mulick, and Ron Lell were the team. Rick, Chris, and Hugo worked as rangers at Mount Robson Provincial Park. Ron was also a skilled caver. A helicopter dropped them off at the cave entrance. They quickly set up their base camp. The team went 400 meters deep into the cave by 11:30 p.m. They reached a vertical drop called the Refresher. This was a 29-foot drop through a freezing waterfall. The waterfall soaked anyone who went down the rope. One by one, the cavers rappelled down the drop. When it was Rick's turn, something terrible happened. The rope was tied to a 400-kilogram boulder. As Rick moved, the boulder came loose. The huge boulder crashed down and hit Rick. The boulder crushed Rick's pelvis and knocked him unconscious. The other cavers rushed to help Rick. They were relieved to find Rick was still alive, but Rick was in terrible pain and could not move. The team knew first aid, but Rick needed a hospital. They tried to move Rick, but it was impossible. Chris stayed with Rick to take care of him. Hugo and Ron left to get help. It took them 5 hours to reach the cave entrance. They could not contact their helicopter pilot. Meanwhile, Chris tried to keep Rick warm in the freezing, dark cave. The two men turned off their headlamps to save battery power. By the morning of October 19th, the rescuers arrived at the cave. This was 36 hours after Rick was hurt. As time passed, both men got worse from the cold. Rick told Chris to leave and save himself. Rick knew that if Chris stayed, they would both die. Chris did not want to leave, but finally agreed. Chris promised to return with help. As Chris climbed out, he met the first rescuers. Chris finally reached the surface. Chris was treated for hypothermia and taken to a hospital by helicopter. When the rescuers reached Rick with medical supplies, it was too late. Rick had died shortly before they arrived.